working at the Air Force Innovation Department and also DC Elevator fan, and as a business development partnerships, and he's going to talk to us about this in the Air Force Innovation Department. And I think that I got your bio from your Twitter account, so I say here BC Elevator fan, Air Force Innovation Department, long distance running, skier, tech junkie, daydreamer, photographer, blogger, and lover of Israel. So pretty personal. So anyway, without further ado, we can start this session. I'm just waiting the okay from Abhishek that we can start. Yes? Give him 1 second. So. Well, anyway, thank you very much for coming already.
Can everyone hear me without a microphone?
Oh, you don't? Oh, no. It's better.
Okay, so I'll use a microphone.
Okay.
As soon as I get the go-ahead.
Wait a minute.
Hi everyone, my name's Ilan Regenbaum, and as Lana said, I'm serving with the Israeli Air Force and bridge two worlds in being part of the Air Force, but also being part of a venture capital fund. If you want to hear more how that works, I'll explain it afterwards. But everything that we do in this unit is completely different that's being done anywhere else in the world. And so I'm here today to talk a little bit about how we're using data, a few cool stories, and what the unit is. And hopefully you can get some interesting insights, and I'm happy to discuss it more afterwards. So we're going to start off in a logical place, the American Civil War. The American Civil War is where the idea of average was discovered. Everyone thinks today about the concept of getting an average of something and using data to figure things out. But it all started back in the American Civil War, when this was the first major war where they realized to go and create uniforms for every single soldier was tough to do, because they used to do it for each soldier. They would measure each soldier, make the uniform. There was no small, medium, large. So at this point, they decided that, okay, we're going to make standardized uniforms this was for the Union Army, and that was where the concept of average came. They went to measure the thousands of soldiers and made these average uniforms. So the concept of average, being a soldier fitting into a rank, was invented in the military. So how does then that come and relate to the Air Force? So that idea of average and using data and using all of these points that were collected from the time of the Civil War went all the way through World War II, where the way they would design the cockpit of pre-fighter jets, but airplanes, was that they would measure it to the average human being. And it was it was just a regular airplane seat, no adjusting it. And even it's a bit out of order, you didn't have this very advanced contraption in an Air Force plane, because it was designed for the average. And they had a major issue, and this was something that was realized all throughout the end of the Second World War, where pilots, who have to think very, very quickly, have to go and reach for whatever it is that has to be logical place within reach. And so they realized they had to include an adjustable seat, because working with the averages, working with this amount of data that they collected about all the average soldiers just didn't work. And so this allowed for, this is a Warthog. It's a very popular airplane in the American Air Force, and one of the best pilots of this during the Iraq operation was a woman who was about 5'2", 4'2". She was one of the shortest pilots in the American Air Force, and all due to the American Air Force deciding to disrupt the average, not listen to the average. She became one of the most decorated fighter pilots in the American military during the Iraq operation. And so now we meet the F-35. This is the idea. We're getting it by the end of the year, and big data is so central to what happens with this airplane. When it came to designing it, they used data feed from old airplanes and 3D mock-ups that just took data from wherever they could pull it to try and figure out how to best manufacture this airplane. And even nowadays, there's a great article about big data in the Air Force in the Jerusalem Post in English about how to go and have the data feeds from this airplane interface with everything else that's going on in the military. And there is a non-stop connection from this plane to the ground. Most other nations that have this plane have a direct connection to the U.S. Air Force. Israel is the only one that the software is not connected to the American Air Force. But the data feed is just continuous, non-stop. And there's so much data that this airplane gives because the battlefield is changing. And being a pilot being able to get whatever data they need right away is so key to their success. And another example of this is, it's meant to be a video, but everyone's known for Spot it's the Iron Dome. And this is another military advancement that has really changed the way we're able to function. Because it used to be that every time a missile we shot over, we would have to retaliate. We have to do something more. And politics aside, what this has allowed is every time a missile comes over, the initial state, it allows us to be more secure in the way that people live in the South. But when it first started, a system like this should take decades to develop. But it was put out at a very unfinished stage because it was had built-in data analytics and machine learning that every single time it missed a missile, it would learn from that and keep on building and building the new algorithms in order to correct itself. So big data is something that is very central to what we do, but it's always good to follow the data. And I'm going to have one last story about how the Air Force doesn't always use data correctly. Once again, the American military, but this was a B-17 bomber in World War II. And what they did research and realized that tons of planes were coming back and they were just completely shot up all over the place. But they were focused in certain areas where they were really badly damaged. Right around the front and the back where the gunner turrets sat. So they thought, well, these are really badly damaged. Must be that in order to increase the return rate of our airplane, we need a better fortification by that part of the airplane. So they did that, and nothing changed. They were losing just as many airplanes. So somebody realized, wait, the data is saying these are the planes that are returning. What about the planes that don't come back? Those are the ones that we need to be focusing on. Because if a plane comes back all shot up, well then clearly it's got enough metal plating on it, so those aren't the ones we have to worry about. We have to worry about the ones that crash, see where they were shot up, and then fortify those areas. So you have to always think a little bit differently when you follow the data, and that's the way we try and do things in our unit. This unit is about 2 years old on paper. It's been recruiting for the last year, and most people haven't heard of it, and many Israelis, when I talk to what we're doing, are very skeptical about this unit. But in the military, rank, it's all about following rank, and you do what your commander says, and that's the end of the day. If you try and break out of that, it's, of course, if you're an officer, it's expected to a certain extent, but rank is very important. And you can sometimes see in the Air Force, it's not that the most highest ranking officer, which is right over there, a major, is leading the squadron, but sometimes a captain will lead it because they're the most expert in that specific type of mission. So it's sometimes break rank, but at the end of the day, you have to follow rank. And so how can you be innovative when you're told to always think inside the box? So the goal of what our unit is doing is trying to build a culture of innovation in the Army. And we do this through a wide array of things, and data, and collecting ideas, and seeing what people are doing, and what people think, and what other companies think, and other governments think. And learning from our mistakes is something that is so key to what the unit does, so that if somebody has an idea, and this I'll touch on a little bit farther, but we call this our innovation platform. It's a cross between Reddit and Product Hunt. But it's only on Army servers, and any soldier can go in, submit an idea to the platform, and another soldier who says, oh, this is a great thing, or another officer who sees this issue or sees how much money is being wasted on that can upvote it, just like many of these other platforms. And so rather than this broken telephone where nothing ever happens when you see an issue, you can go right to the platform. Our unit will also review ideas, and you can go right to the decision maker, and ideas can actually happen and make it through the system. So it's not about thinking, innovation is all about breaking the way things have been done, and that's what we're working to do. So I'll give more of an overview of how we work and what we're doing. These are our 6 pillars of how we're trying to innovate in big organizations. And this is highly relevant, I feel, to not just the Air Force. But if you can be innovative in the Air Force, in the military, you can be innovative anywhere. And so our focus is, as I said before, we're working with anyone who is innovative or wants to be innovative, whether it's in Israel, we're working with the Israeli police, the umbrella organization that runs all government offices within Israel, a number of corporations within Israel and in the United States. I was recently in a trip to the US, had meetings with heads of innovation at Polo, at Ralph Lauren, at Coach, at General Electric. And you might think, well, what does that have anything to do with innovation? Well, they all have, to some extent, this kind of mentality of how to deal with innovation and how to use whatever insight, whatever ideas that you can find from wherever they may come. So the first part of it I touched on is our virtual platform. And it's the parts of a bit of a mix of product types. But the whole point is being able to share ideas. and collaborate, and those ideas need to be tracked, and taking the ideas and seeing where they go, and having KPIs, and having metrics, and having the tools that can follow that. So this is just a bigger part of it, but also gamification is involved in this. You've got an 18-year-old who's stuck in a job that they don't like. You need to have something that kind of motivates them to do a little bit more than when they're submitting an idea. And today we have about 500 ideas. This hasn't been launched, it's still in beta, but we have about 500 ideas in the platform, mostly from low-ranking non-officer soldiers, so anyone below the age of, say, 21 for the most part. And almost every single one of those ideas is actually a legitimate idea. We haven't gotten anything that you would expect an 18-year-old to upload when given the freedom to upload what they want. And this is expanded to other parts of it. So whether it's tracking products and product management within the Army, we use tons of very outdated and slow systems from SAP and other big companies, and I apologize if anyone from SAP is here. But we want to change them, and putting in UX and understanding what people on the ground want from the products. We are redeveloping them so that it's actually usable and serves the purpose of what people want when using these products. The next part is the physical space. You'll see we've done a number of events here, right here in Rise. We had our units that came here and learned about how to be innovative, because you go and speak to higher level officers who are very set in the way that they think, and they've been told to think a certain way, so we want to try and change that. So another part of what we're doing is knowledge education. So we want people to be able to think outside the box, and so we have partnerships with University Tel Aviv. We're working with the Department of Defense of the United States that makes 5-day boot camps for officers and Ministry of Defense officials so that they can know what it means to be innovative, and putting in KPIs so that when an 18-year-old comes up with an idea that saves the Army millions of shekel, well, that their commander's not angry when that happens, because that commander is actually going to get rewarded because his KPI is how many ideas come from his underlings. And it all kind of connects together, but even things that are a little bit atypical, whether it's making sure that we're getting the most from the people that are in the military. If you can't tell by my accent, I actually was not born here. I was born in South Africa and grew up in the States, and my Hebrew was not, it took a long time for my Hebrew to get good. So we want to offer courses to a PhD in physics who's now serving in the military but can't speak any Hebrew. And the reason there's a Chinese over there was I gave the same presentation to some Chinese delegation, so it was easier just to leave it. But the next part is culture. It's about making a culture of innovation within the military, and it all kind of connects together. For some reason the videos aren't working, but this is actually the commander of the unit. He's a major in the Air Force, taking a shower at what is called Machanet. Machanet is a 3-day hackathon put together by for the top units within the military, as well as the police and the Ministry of Defense. And the whole point of this is every team that is in this hackathon, their project can't have any actual real purpose. This was built by Mossad. It was not a torture device. This was a human car wash. And the reason it was built was just to be fun, just to be creative, just to think outside of the box, because sometimes you can't always solve problems by just staring down the barrel of the problem and trying to hack away at it. You have to take a step back, and that's all you have to do with this. So the projects that were worked on were amazing, and these 18-year-olds were given 3 days and just did the most amazing thing because they were allowed to. And from that, they get to network and continue that culture. Another thing, we are proud to say that we're the first unit to hold an Army-sponsored bar night. This is the head of OFEC, which is Air Force's 8200, if you've heard of that. It's our cyber and development unit. Speaking in uniform in a bar. And this was the first time it ever happened, because we want to change the way things happen. This happens at a startup. Why can't this happen in the military? And I'm going to give a quick pitch if anyone's interested. Tuesday night, we're having another bar night, 7 o'clock at Fire Bars, to come learn more about what we're doing and hear from more people within our unit. But doing makeathons and hackathons like Machanet. But this is also more practical. In this makeathon, we looked at problems through our innovation platform and saw which was had the biggest need within the Army, and ideas that were very simple. This was some sort of device for field units to I think look into tunnels or something. But on a much higher level, haptic feedback for fighter jet joysticks was a project that they tried to hack together in 3 days. It has yet to be put into an airplane, and I wouldn't want it to be put in an airplane after 3 days of working on it. But these are ideas that we're all putting through the system. And lastly, which is my focus, is the ecosystem. We want to partner with anyone and everyone to try and find the ideas wherever they may lie. And so we have the Air Force Alumni Association. We work with the ecosystem itself with organizations like TOM to do hackathons and make-a-thons. We look for startups to change issues within the Air Force. We work with Prove, which is an awesome startup, to see how we can change the way procurement is done for the Air Force and bring new ideas and software and products within the Army. And lastly, some of the projects that we had. I can talk all day about how we're using data and how we're trying to change things, but it's all about tachlis. What have we done? So one of the big campaigns we're working on right now is a campaign to reduce bird strikes within the military, but any Air Force, any airport in the world has this. The United Flight Hudson was brought down by some keys. So we're asking soldiers and anyone, eventually we'll be opening up this up to the public, how can we reduce bird strikes on military planes? Because it's very expensive and very dangerous. Another one is 18-year-old soldiers saw every night in a base down south, but they would leave the runway lights on even though no planes were landing. And she asked her commander, well, why is this happening? It probably is wasting money. He said, you're probably right, but I have to fill out so much paperwork to turn on the lights, we just leave them on. So we brought all the different offices from the head of the base and about 5 other offices into one room and said, do you guys know this is costing me 10 million shekel per year? They were shocked. They said, well, how do we fix this? We brought in an external company that had a solution for this, put it into play, and saved 10 million shekel per year because an 18-year-old soldier solved this issue. And so these are a few other things that we're working on, and happy to discuss them farther. But all in all, that's how we're trying to change the Air Force and work with anyone who's willing to work with us. And I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you.